And hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of the Understanding Room. As always, I'm Mike. And as always, we want to thank you for tuning in and checking out what we have to say. And as always, I have my good buddy on the other side, Odie. Say what's up to the people one time, Odie.
Good evening, guys. Thank you once again for joining us. We appreciate all of you viewing these and coming up to either Mike or me and letting us know what you think of us, or of the videos. So keep coming, keep them coming, keep them coming. We love you guys, and we appreciate every single one of you.
And last week we talked a little bit about white supremacy and how it's dug itself into our culture and as Americans. And Odie brought up something this week that I was like, man, sure, let's jump on it. It kind of segues itself into what we've been saying the last few weeks about how the system itself is corrupted so bad that it needs to be broken down and just restructured. So, Odie, you wanted to talk a little bit about how capitalism is embedded into white supremacy.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Mike. We can go ahead and talk a bit about it. Now, this one's going to be a little. I know that there's going to be some people out there that are going to start thinking, oh my goodness, he's going to push socialism, or communism. I want to make sure that I start off by saying, um, communism is not the same thing as socialism. Communism, for example, China is considered a capitalist society, and they're communist. So just because you are, socialist does not mean you are communist. I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm not. I don't consider myself a socialist either. I don't think either capitalism or socialism are the answer. But right now we want to focus on capitalism. Capitalism is since we were growing up, I remember in elementary, we were told capitalism is the best form of government. Oh my God, we perfected it in the United States, and it's the only way that it's going to survive. So, as always, I wanted to start with a little bit of history and just give you where capitalism comes from. So, capitalism started off in the 1500s. Before the 1500s, there were only two classes: upper class, which was the royalty and royal families, and the lower class, the serfs. In the 1500s, a middle class emerged, the merchant class. And the merchant class was the first class that broke that barrier. They started going from being poor to being, maybe not as rich as the high class, as the royal class, but they started making money. Why were they called the merchant class? Because they were selling goods. When you start producing goods and selling your own goods, now you have your own way of making money. What happens is in the 1600s and the 1700s, of course, the ones that were in the high class start realizing, whoa, they've caught on to something. And that's when capitalism really takes off. That's when we start seeing, like in the United States, becoming a capitalist society after they broke off from Britain. So before we get into some facts about our country specifically, I wanted to actually point out one thing that a lot of people don't realize, and that's recessions. We keep saying capitalism is like the best form of government, but is it really? We tend to think and agree with our politicians on this, but what Mike said yesterday, last week, about privatizing prisons being a new form of slavery really got me thinking about this. And so I started doing some research, and I found out that the United States has had 47 recessions since its inception. Now, I want you to, keep that in mind. I want you to keep this in mind. We've had 45 presidents, 47 recessions. So that's an average of a recession every 5 years. Our first recession was not even that far off from when the country was created. Our country was created in 1775. The first recession was 10 years later in 1785. The Panic of 1785 lasted 4 years. Guess what? That one finished in 1788. Our next recession, 1789. That one lasted 4 years. And why is this important? This is important because this is telling us we're being lied to. Something's fishy there. If capitalism was really as good of a form of government as we are being told, then why are there so many recessions? Why is it that every few years it feels like the whole system is going to collapse? Why is it that it's struggling? And honestly, it's because of the way that it works. The way that capitalism works is, being really honest with you, a capitalist society, a capitalist mentality is a big, gigantic pyramid scheme. In order for the government to keep succeeding, every single year, there has to be a profit. If there isn't a profit, then capitalism is not succeeding. That company is not succeeding. Now, the problem is that in order for there to be a profit every single year, they can't afford to pay you, the employee, more. If they pay you, the employee, more, then that means their profit margin goes down. So now we're going to get into some facts. And these facts surprised the heck out of me. In the 1950s, the average CEO was making 20 times the salary of his or her average employer. That was the 1950s. Now, I want you guys to look at these numbers because to me, it made my jaw drop. In the 1980s, so everything was around okay. 1950s, 1960s, 1970s is when stuff started going a little weird. In 1980, the average CEO was making 40 times what their average worker was making. In 1981, the average CEO is making 1989. I apologize. I misspoke. In 1989, the average CEO is making 61 times what their average workers is making. In the year 2000, the average CEO is making 120 times more, 120 times more. In the 2010s, 2010, 2011, the average CEO is making 250 times more than their workers. In 2018, the average CEO was making 293 times the average pay of their workers. In 2019, the average CEO was making 320 times the rate of their worker. Since the 1970s, the pay for the average CEO has gone up 940%. And look, I know what you're saying. You're probably saying, well, they work harder. Do they, though? Do they? I mean, most of the money that's being made is by their frontline employees. So just to give you an example, random. I just looked up two companies that came to mind, and I really want to make sure that we point this out. So one of those companies is Verizon. Verizon, the average salary of their employee is 35,000. Now, sales employees will make roughly the average for a sales employee can range anywhere from 17,000 to up to 70,000. So depending on how good you are at sales with Verizon, but again, that's the most important person, the one that can sell. So an average salary of 35,000. How much does the CEO of Verizon make? Well, in 2020, the CEO of Verizon made $19,115,000. And by the way, I'm rounding that down. Guys, that's more than that's more than 250 employees combined. Now, ExxonMobil, the CEO for ExxonMobil, by the way, he was the CEO, the CEO that made the least. That's why I picked ExxonMobil. I want you to keep in mind, every other oil company CEO made more than him. He made 17,466,000. The average employee for ExxonMobil, 60,000. So guys, again, how does that add up? How does that add up? Now, watch. I hate this myth. It's one of the myths that irritates me the most, that we tell each other in the US. You hear dog-faced liars like Ted Cruz say this over and over when they say everyone in America can succeed if they want to. That is a lie. That is a 100% lie. So I'm going to use just where I live as an example. And that the living wage can be different wherever you live. So in Hidalgo County, in Texas, our minimum wage, Texas minimum wage, is still $7.25. So far, so good. So let's talk about a family. You know what? Let's talk about a family with two parents in it. A family with two parents, to consider themselves poor, again, the poverty line needs to be making minimum $8.29 an hour. That means that if I have a minimum wage job, either I find myself another job or my wife works with too. That's without children. A family with one child, just to be poor. Again, we're not even saying to be like above the living wage. To be poor, to be in the poverty line, would have to be making $10.44 an hour. If they have two children, $12.60 an hour. To be considered poor, to be out of the poverty line with zero children, you would have to be making $20 an hour, which means that even if both adults are working and both adults are earning minimum wage, they're still under the poverty line, guys. I'm sorry, they're still not over that poverty line. They're still not in the living wage section of it. If they have two children, they would have to be making $28.58 an hour. That means that each parent would have to have a job that pays them, guess what? Minimum $15 an hour. And yet we have all these politicians, we have all these government officials telling us it can't happen. It would be disastrous if we got paid $15 an hour. minimum wage. Guys, when they tell you, oh no, the price of everything is going up, understand that they're lying to you. The only reason that the price of everything is going to go up is because if we get a raise, the CEO is going to want to raise too. But if they're already getting paid 400 times what you're getting paid, why the hell do they deserve a raise too? So now, some of you are going to say, well, so get another job. Each parent can work 2 jobs. Okay. But now, doesn't that start sounding like slavery? If I'm working 2 jobs, if my wife is working 2 jobs, if both of us are working 2 jobs, then who's taking care of our children? And then when our children go out and do something that they're not supposed to, you're going to blame the parents when you don't understand that the parents are too busy having to work. Guys, here's more numbers for you. 40 million Americans. 40 million Americans. That's 28% of our workforce is under that poverty line. 40 million Americans are working hard and can't support themselves. By the way, Black Americans, twice as likely to be part of that 40 million. And you're telling me that there is no racism, and you're telling me that the system ain't rigged, and you're telling me that anyone who wants a chance has a chance? A couple of weeks ago, I talked about the worst day of my life. The day my mother died and the day I had to drop out of school. Let's put this in perspective. Remember, the minimum wage, the wage that I talked about, is just to live. So that means that you're not making enough to have extra, to have vacations, to have extra purchases. You're making it by the skin of your teeth. So you think we have a chance? You think there is a chance? The average vocational school, that's a 2-year college, costs $9,500 a year. The average public 4-year college costs $10,400 a year. The average Ivy League school, $50,000 a year. So if my child, for example, me, I busted my rear end. I talked about it. I had a scholarship to Baylor. It was a full paid scholarship. But again, those of you that think, oh, well, you had a full paid scholarship, you had a free ride, how in the world didn't you get your degree? My full paid scholarship, in order to keep it, required me to have 21 hours, college hours per semester. Do the math. If an average class is 3, credits, 3 hours, 3 credits per semester, that meant I had to take 7 classes per semester, minimum. If some of those were science classes, which my major was biology, most of them were, if some of those were science classes, I'd also have to take the lab, which means I'm taking an average of maybe 10, 11 classes per semester. That first semester that I was in college, I would go Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. and would leave at 10 p.m. So now when my mother passes away and I have to get a full-time job, how in the world can I be at school 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. and carry on a full-time job? And you're telling me I have an opportunity? If my child is a prodigy, if my child is smart, if my child is the next Albert Einstein, but he has the bad luck to be born Black or Hispanic, he might not get the opportunity to go to college. He might not get the opportunity to live up to his potential. But you're telling me that everyone in America has an opportunity, the same opportunity. Come on, guys. We need to wake up and we need to realize that's not the way it is. There's one more fact that I want to throw out there. Toys R Us. I wanted to talk about Toys R Us because I ain't gonna lie, I love Toys R Us. I was a Toys R Us kid until it disappeared, and it blew when it failed. It broke my heart because it should not have failed. So those of you that don't know the story, Toys R Us went bankrupt, $16 million in bankruptcy. In 2017, by the way, a couple of weeks before they closed down all the stores and announced that it was done, they asked a judge for permission to give $21 million in bonuses to the top 9 executives. Like, I need you to get that through your heads. I want to cuss, but I'm not going to. They folded and they closed their doors, and their bankruptcy was $16 million. Just a couple weeks before they did, they gave $21 million on bonuses to their top 9 executives. That $21 million that they gave in bonuses would have paid for their bankruptcy and would have kept the doors open. Instead, their employees got kicked out, got fired, got put on unemployment without even batting an eye. Oh, and by the way, just to throw this out there, this was in the middle of the presidency of the orange idol that was supposed to save the world. So his tax breaks didn't work. His make the rich richer philosophy didn't work. So what's the excuse there? Now, I'm going to end this part of today's episode with this. We're always told, oh, socialism is much worse. Oh, no country has ever succeeded with socialism. No government has ever succeeded with socialism. Number one, there are countries that have succeeded. I mean, Sweden, anybody? Just throwing that out there. But number two thing, I really want to make sure that I drive this home. The longest known living democratic government was here in the US and was socialist. The Iroquois started their government in the 1100s, and it lasted till the 1700s when the white illegal immigrants came in and destroyed it. 600 years, and it was socialist. The Iroquois lived in longhouses with 60 to 100 people living in each longhouse. And for them, it was seen as a blessing. It was seen as an honor to take care of their sick, to take care of their needed, to take care of their orphans, to take care of everyone that needed help. You guys want to, and I'm not going to even get into this conversation. I want to make sure I say I don't agree that a man should be part of this conversation, but I'm going to say it just because it has to be said for this. You all don't want abortion, but you also don't want to take care of the orphans that are left because we're a capitalist society and socialism doesn't work. Yet, the longest democratic republic was socialist. They're lying to us, guys. Um, all these dog faced liars, like, again, Ted Cruz, Trump, um, you know, what did Ted Cruz said it out of his mouth not too long ago. What was his tweet? His tweet was, any company that wants to come to us for favors, go to the Democrats, see if they'll give you favors. Come on, guys. The reason that CEOs are getting paid that much, the reason that um, we are where we are right now is because they're lying to us, is because it benefits them. So, again, what we always say, this is to start a conversation. I want you all to realize the way that a capitalist society works is by enslaving us. We are the ones that make the capitalist society go round and round. Without the workers, there is no income. If McDonald's didn't have people to make burgers, McDonald's doesn't make a dime. Well, to be fair, they are in real estate. But if McDonald's didn't have people to make burgers, then McDonald's locations wouldn't stay open. If they wouldn't stay open, then the people that are paying them rent to have those locations open wouldn't be able to pay their rent, which still means McDonald's doesn't make a dime. If a bank doesn't have tellers, doesn't have customer service, doesn't have people that know how a bank works, the bank can't function. And if the bank can't function, you can't get loans. And if you can't get loans, it fails. Every single company in this country needs us. And we need to use our voice, and we need to use our common sense, and we need to use our reading to get the knowledge to get ourselves out of that slavery, guys. Slavery didn't disappear with when it was abolished. It just mutated. It morphed into something new. And they're getting better at it. They're getting better at it because they're lying to you, because they're lying to us, because this is the richest country in the world by far. And it's also the country that does the least for its citizens.
Perfectly said. And you know, it's the same thing we've been saying since episode one. We definitely need to start using our voices. And segueing off of that, we we all know how the previous election went. We know that record numbers of people turned out to vote. We know that record numbers of people turned out to use their voice to rid us of a cancer in our country. And we did that using our voices, using our democratic rights as American citizens to vote. Well, now that that has been exercised, ever since the election process, there has been a drive to suppress votes throughout the country. And some of y'all may not know, but Arizona is still doing a recount. They're doing yet another recount, another audit. And they're using this company that has zero auditing experience. They don't even barely know how the voting systems work. But these are the people that are auditing the votes in Arizona. So you're taking someone with zero experience and you're telling them to basically go do. I don't understand that. Cyber ninjas, as they're called. I'm not making that up. They're really called cyber ninjas. Um, they're just this company that decided to step in and audit the election in Arizona. Found nothing so far. They are going to continue, but they're going to take about a week off for graduations, and then they're going to get right back to it. People, it is May. It's May. The election was over 6 months ago. Why?
Be like Elsa.
Huh?
Be like Elsa and let it go. Right?
You're talking about an election that this dude lost, and we all saw him lose. And they are still piggybacking on this. And like Odie said, it's all lies. And all of these lies are designed to keep us feuding against each other while they continue to make money, stuff their pockets with money. Now, anyone that knows me knows I love history. And I always say, history will always repeat itself to those who don't want to understand and realize what it's for. So for those that think history is just, oh, some old stuff that happened way back, no, learn from it or you're doomed to repeat it. So what we're seeing right now are two events in history that have already happened. And I'm going to break them down. And I'm going to keep them in chronological order. First, we're going to talk about the secession of the southern states and why they decided to do that. So a lot of people know that I love talking about the Civil War era. I love that era of history. I'm from the South. I'm from South Georgia. I know a lot of histories. I lived like in maybe 45 minutes from one of the places where they had a big historic battle. So I love the history of the Civil War. So when the states decided that they were going to secede from the Union, they didn't do it because they were concerned about, they didn't care about, it's all we're going to keep our slaves. No, it wasn't about that. They felt that the person that was elected was going to overstep his boundaries and tell them and interfere with their state rights. That's what it was all about. They didn't like that the guy that was elected beat the guy that they wanted to win. The guy who they wanted to win, his policy was to keep slavery, to use more slaves to make more products and services. Meanwhile, Abraham Lincoln didn't care one way or another. He had his own slaves. He had slaves himself. So when Lincoln started pondering with the idea of, hey, you know what? We fought for our own liberties and freedoms. Who's looking out for these people? Because they're people. Southern states was like, whoa, this guy's gonna get in office. He's gonna shut everything down. We're not gonna be able to make our money. We're gonna be poor, and then they're gonna come down here and take over. How does that sound? Does that sound anything familiar like today? Kind of does. Joe Biden and his agenda, they're going to bankrupt the South, and they're going to take over by using their democratic powers, and they're going to take over the country and just make us all, like Odie said, we're going to be all a socialist nation. Because the man wants to make sure that everyone gets vaccinated, because he wants to make sure that everyone gets a chance to survive this pandemic. Meanwhile, the other administration did not care and let 500,000 people die. 500,000 people died.
No. Let's 500,000 Americans, not people all over the world. Americans, the ones that he's supposed we're the best, the best.
And he was out to look out for everybody. Didn't matter what side you were on. He was going to be, he was going to take care of everybody. He was going to make sure that we as a nation stood up and had the best this and the best that, and we tanked. And he didn't care, all because he wanted to line his pockets. So to those of you who really don't understand what I'm saying, check me out. So when you are the president of the United States, you have Secret Service everywhere you go. Who pays the Secret Service? The American people with our taxes. We pay the Secret Service, the people that go around with the president. So whenever they go to places with the president, the Secret Service is sent with him, right? Any expenses that come along with the Secret Service staying comes out of the American people's budget to pay that venue. For example, if former President Trump decided he wanted to go spend a weekend at Trump Golf Resort, and he needed Secret Service because he's the president, and the Secret Service has to pay for their rooms, where does that money go? If I'm at Trump Resort and the American people are paying Trump Resort for the Secret Service to stay, and you wonder why he spent so much time on his different resorts, and you wonder why he was so willing to give up his salary. Because when you charge for the Secret Service to stay places, just like he does with all of his properties, it can fluctuate how much they choose to charge people. And for those that didn't pay attention, if you do the math, 400,000 times 4 is less than what he really made as president, which was over 1.6 billion as president, because of all the money that he had been made through these phony donations and through the Secret Service staying at his resorts. So, first example, they didn't like Abraham Lincoln, so they seceded from the Union, right? Well, we have a civil war. We all know how that worked out. So are we not understanding what that was? That was an attempted coup, an attempt to overtake the government. And if we were watching last time, Odie told you what the ingredients for a coup really was. It's a violent, sudden attack against democracy to overthrow a government. Was it sudden? They attacked federal troops at Fort Sumter. It was sudden. They were not expecting it. Was it illegal? Yes, you attacked federal troops. Was it an attempt to take power from the government? Yeah, you stole a fort. So yes, a coup. Your plan at that time was to take over the southern states and march into Washington and take it over. You set up an entire new government. It was a coup. Didn't work. Oh well. Now, my second example. We all know what happened on January 6th, right? Insurrection. A attempt at, wait, suddenly, violently, illegally overthrowing the government. Sounds familiar, but I digress. So let's talk about what's going on now. Liz Cheney, I have to say, and excuse my language, is the only woman, is the only person in Congress with balls. The only Republican with balls. She stood up and said, "This is ridiculous. Why are we still believing this lie? We should stop it because there's other things that we need to be focused on." They are basically ousting her, and they took her leadership position away from her. This kind of reminds me of something that happened in the 1940s or the 1930s, I'm sorry, 1920s and 30s, where your boy Adolf did the exact same thing. So he had his first attempted coup, didn't go well. He gets locked up for a year or two, gets released, and he goes on a mission. And that mission is to do whatever I have to do, rid whoever I need to rid in order to gain my power. Starting to sound familiar. Liz Cheney disagreed with Trump. Now she's ousted out of her leadership position. You want to start removing the people who don't agree with you. Adolf Hitler did the same thing, just a little bit more dramatically and violently. But they are trying to keep it under wraps. They're trying to make it seem like it's just, part of business. Like, oh, if the American people who voted for you expect you to do a job, she is doing her job. She's doing her job. She's defending the Constitution. She's upholding the Constitution. Unlike anybody else in there, including everyone's favorite Senator Ted Cruz. And she's standing against them. She's standing up to them. And now that she's doing that, they don't like it. So now we have to look at it like, okay, this guy already failed at a coup in January. He's already got a merry band of Republican senators, Republican congressmen that are willing to do his bidding while he dictates from a different state. It kind of sounds like what Jefferson Davis did. He moved the capital of the Confederate States, so he has a place to maneuver and call shots. Literally what Trump's doing from Mar-a-Lago. He has people within the government that is still willing to do his bidding, that are going to do his bidding. So when you say history is not important, these are two examples of things that are happening that have already previously happened in history. The only difference is we haven't gotten to the part in this part of history of today where the second takeover has happened. Hasn't happened yet. But if we continue to believe the big lie, if we continue to fall for the big hoax of the election was stolen and that all of these voting bills that are being out are coming out are supposed to be in the benefit of the American people, if we continue to believe that Liz Cheney was ousted because she's not doing her job, we are doomed to repeat our own history. And let's not forget, World War II was not that long ago. It really isn't. There are people who were alive during that time that are still alive today. So you got to understand, it really isn't that long ago. And we are about to repeat the same instances that happened before. And if you don't pay attention, if you don't realize that this is what's happening, this is why history is so important, we're going to relive it. And it's going to be too late for us to even have this because it's going to come down hard. We have to continue to use our voices. We have to continue to be a people of democracy, a people of a democratic republic. That way, we can continue to exercise our voices, exercise our rights, and be able to have these conversations, like Odie said. Like, we can have these conversations, be open about it, but we should not give in and bow down to one person because of what they want to do. It's I don't understand how people aren't seeing how much more obvious this is. The guy is literally like, why would a senator leave Washington to go down to Mar-a-Lago to see somebody who's no longer in power? What do you need to go celebrate?
Well, I mean, and remember, it's not like it's honestly not like they're trying to hide it. Um, I can't remember if it was Mitch McConnell or Lindsey Graham that recently said that one of the reasons they wanted to get rid of Liz Cheney is because she said the quote was almost verbatim. She said our party can move forward without Donald Trump. And I'm telling you, our party cannot. It was Lindsey Graham. That accent just came to my mind. Lindsey Graham.
Wizzle. Oh my gosh, man. He is just like, you know, Lindsey Graham is like that, like you watch those movies and you have like a gang of like kids that are like, Lindsey Graham's that little annoying one that's like nobody really likes, but they decided to bring along anyway because he might be useful later on. That's Lindsey Graham.
And in that quote, he said, our party cannot move forward without Donald Trump. Guys, here's the thing about lies. The thing about lies is, especially in this day and age, number one, it's really, really hard to lie. Number two, the truth is going to come out regardless. And number three, it's kind of hard to keep up a lie. So it's not like they're lying to us. They're telling us to our face what they're trying to do. They're telling us to our face what they're trying to do. And yet we're oblivious to it. Like Mr. Mike said, we need to learn from our history in order to protect our future. We need to learn what came before so I can have something after.
Exactly. And we constantly say that we want to make this country better for the generation behind us. We are not doing that. We are not doing that. We are setting our country up to revert back to a time where in history people were suppressed oppressed to do their civil, just everyday life things. We're going back to an era where it was okay for people to look down on other people. We're going back to a time where, people are okay with, separate but equal. I'm afraid we're reverting back. We want to move forward, but we don't know how to do it. Well, we know how to do it, but they just refuse to do it. And as a party that continues to say that we want to be the party that has wholesome family and good American values, according to whose values? Because the times that you're talking about are wholesome American values, those are times where people were enslaved, when people didn't have rights, women didn't have rights, African Americans didn't have rights. They couldn't even walk outside without getting arrested and thrown back into slavery. So you're telling me about good old, grand family values and American traditions? No, that's not what we need. What we need to do is to start all over with this system. We should definitely break it down and see where it's coming from inside, because as long as these policies that they have now are still in place, they're going to still find ways to reach around and get through it and continue to keep it the way it is. And someone's always going to continue to fight for. I mean, the I can't remember her name. The woman that they're trying to get to replace Liz Cheney. She started out her political career by just completely disagreeing with everything Trump did. All of a sudden, she's Trump's right-hand cheerleader. All of a sudden, she's got political flavor in her party. She's got votes. She's got donations coming in. And now, look. So this woman is willing to sell herself out to gain, basically, into this political notion that this man should be legitimate president when we all know that this man lost. And after 6 months of trying to find documentation of this victory that he claims he has, they still ain't found nothing.
Elise Stefanik.
Oh yeah, that's her. And he can't even pronounce her name.
Yeah.
I remember he tried to say it during one of his rallies, and he completely butchered her name. And he's like, "However you're saying," like the man doesn't respect you. He respects no one. He's gonna do and use whoever he has to get what he wants, and that's complete power and to get the access to gain more money. He's gonna do that, and he's gonna remember who he has to.
Yep. Now, I mean, I want to make sure we don't justify Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney is one of the reasons that Trump is in power to begin with. She made her own bed. She's got to lay in it. So am I proud that she's finally understanding what the heck they did? Yeah. She's the first, and I don't think she'll be the last. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. When the future generations looks back at this time, they're going to be looking at this as a dark ages. They are going to be looking at this with the same eyes that we see the dark ages. What the hell happened, and what the hell did they allow to happen? But we have it. We still have a chance. We still have that opportunity, especially because we're in a society now in which we can speak. It made me so angry because, again, I don't remember this time. I think it was it was the other one. It was our guy. But in the speech that they made to get Liz Cheney out, he said, whoever it was, I can't remember who it was, said, "We are the party of freedom of speech and free thought." Like the irony of that. You're saying you are the party of free speech and free thought, but the one person in your party that is having free speech and free thought is the one you want to shut up. Like, don't you realize the irony in what you're saying? Now, guys, I want to point something else out because I wanted to make sure that we mentioned this. Mike brought up a really good point earlier, and I want to make sure I say this. For those of you that don't think our politicians have racist mindsets, he said something that brought up a really good point. We have people that are still alive right now that were alive during World War II. We have people that are still serving as senators and in Congress, period, that were still alive during segregation, that were the ones benefiting from segregation. So, yeah, they're still the racists.
And it's like I said before, the same people who were, fighting for the Confederacy, fighting for the South to maintain their way of living, are the same people that after the Civil War went right back to Washington, sat in their seats, and continued to make laws. The same people. So like Odie said, if you really think that racism and slavery all ended in 1865 with the Emancipation Proclamation, it didn't go nowhere. It just, like you said, it just mutated. It took a new form, it took new policies, and they found new ways to do it, just like they're doing it now. They're going to continue to do that because why? Because it's embedded in their system. It's embedded in their system to find ways to keep minorities from voting. That is their main issue. As long as they can do that, everything else they don't care about. Because you have to understand, there have been 29 more mass shootings this week. there's still not one legislation on gun control. In fact, Texas now says you can walk around without a license with a gun. So again, my question is, you expect your answer for mass shootings in Texas, your response to that is let's just let everybody have a gun. Don't care. You don't need a background check. You don't need a license to carry it. You just have a gun. It makes no sense. But yet still we're pushing the big lie that Trump, is legitimate president of the United States when we all know that that's not true. We all know that this man lost the election. We all know that he attempted to overthrow the democracy that we are now currently in. Like, I'm not understanding. And then we have those people in Congress who we elected to uphold and defend our Constitution. And they are choosing, well, you know what? They're doing their job. Because like I said last week, within the Constitution, none of that was meant for anyone of color. Didn't mean they didn't care about me. They don't give a crap about Odie. They don't care. The Constitution was written for them to succeed. For them to succeed. They exterminated an entire race to get it. And they don't care how they get it. They're going to do whatever they have to do. And every single word in their policy is going to justify why they are okay with doing what they want to do. And they're continuing to do it today. And they're going to do it tomorrow and the next day. Because if they can blatantly push somebody out for speaking the truth in front of everyone's eyes, what do you think they're doing behind our backs? Like, if they are blatantly pushing this woman out for telling the truth, what do you think they're doing behind our backs? They're going to do whatever they have to do to succeed. Just like I said last week, they're going to do whatever it takes, and they will take anybody out to get their agenda across. And they're not going to stop until they get it. And unfortunately, Trump has a huge hand in it. He is the one that's pulling all the strings, and he's doing it from Florida. He has, okay, here's something else too. So New York has been investigating Trump for a while. They said that once we have enough evidence to indict him, we're coming. Governor DeSantis of Florida said that if federal troops or federal agents came to try to arrest Donald Trump, that he would use his powers to try to restrict that from happening. Now, trying to understand, why do you think that he would do that?
And see, here's the thing. This is what's laughable to me. This is what's laughable to me. These are the people that are telling you, oh, communism is bad. Oh, Marxism. Oh, kill them all. But doesn't that sound like communism to you? Protecting people that should be in jail just because they're right for the party? Again, guys, you can't remember what I said earlier. A lie is hard to keep up. A lie is hard to keep up. You can't claim to not be communist and then do communist things and not be called on it nowadays. I mean, that's ridiculous for a governor to come out and say, I'm not going to let the federal government carry on what the federal government needs to do simply because I want this person to represent me.
Well, here's the thing. supposedly he's going to be Trump's running mate in 2024 because apparently, like Pence won't do his bidding anymore, so he needs a new running mate. So if I were going to be the vice president, or if I aspire to be the vice president in 2024, I think I'm going to do what the big dog says, so I can try to maintain and gain more of my political power. But what he fails to realize is he he really can't stop them from coming and extradite them out of there. Like he ain't got that much power. He not as much as he thinks he does.
Oh man. So sorry about that, clearing my throat, guys. It's just it doesn't make sense to me sometimes that we have like I'll give you this example. This is something that really doesn't make sense to me. We have a president like Obama, a president so far like Biden that are wanting to do good for the country, right? Biden puts up this $3.9 trillion plan to fix what's wrong with the country, infrastructure, give us better internet, take care of the families, et cetera, et cetera. And the Republicans are saying that's too much. That's too much. That's too much. When Donald Trump put out his 2017 tax breaks, how much do you think the tax breaks totaled up to for the richest? What was it? 10%, 3.9 trillion. So where the heck do you think those 3.9 trillion was going to come from anyways? If you're giving them a tax break, it's still coming from us. It's still money that we could use for the country. So they were perfectly fine with that because it was being given as tax breaks for the top 10%. But here's the guy giving the 3.9 trillion to the bottom percent, and now they have a problem.
I mean, it's like you said earlier. The was the Toys R Us that dispersed their 21 million 21 trillion
21 million
21 million with the CEOs and left the bottom struggling and just kicked them out. I was like, all right, well, good luck. It's the same thing. It's always those. Again, it's like we're repeating ourselves. Every time people at the bottom want to come up, the people at the top have a problem with it. But when the people at the top start distributing and helping themselves out, helping out each other, they don't see a problem with that. Doesn't matter how many people are below them are scratching to try to get to the surface, they don't care. As long as they're continuing to bring in their profit, as long as they're continuing to help themselves, nothing else matters.
And now, with that said, I mean, again, I'm not against making profit when you can. I'm just saying, especially if you're working for the government, you're supposed to be working for your constituents. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to be working for us. The profit that you're making off of it isn't really supposed to be there. That's why, one of the things that I've been pushing for years and I've been saying for years is there has to be, instead of putting the guy that has the 1 gram of narcotics in jail for 20 years, we should start putting those people that are making millions and millions off of us in jail for 20 years. I mean, look at Snowden. Snowden is still not allowed to be in the United States. Snowden, if he's ever in a country that has extradition, will be extradited, and he's facing his life in prison. And this guy just tried to warn us what the government was doing. And we have real traitors.
Reality Winner was telling the truth about everything about Donald Trump, and she's still locked up, even though it's already out and proven that he did exactly what she said.
Yep, exactly. And yet we have real traitors like again, Ted Cruz, that is betraying everything he is supposed to stand for. Heck, he even betrayed his country and fled to Mexico the first chance he got when things got hard, that are still walking around scot free. Um, how many millions? I can't remember. How many millions of dollars did he get because of lobbying? That's why they're supporting Trump. They're supporting Trump because Trump. The one thing that Trump knows how to do is he knows how to get into the brains of like-minded people, and then he convinces them to give him all this money, which he pocketed. Man, like Mr. Mike said, $1 billion he made being president, and oh my God, he donated his salary. Come on, he probably ended up. He, I don't. I honestly don't think he was a billionaire before he became a president. I really don't. I don't care what he claims. I don't care how much he claims to have. Show me the proof. And if he doesn't show me the proof, it's because he doesn't have it. Now he's a billionaire because his followers made him such, and that's the only reason that they're following him. The Republicans, because they want to make that amount of money, and they want the support of these sheep that are following him. It's funny to me because that's the group that says, "Oh, the media, oh, the media, they're lying to you." But they're the ones that don't do absolutely any research. Like, if you're going to tell me that the media is lying to me, then damn it, go out there and read. Learn our history, learn what's happening, learn what really happened at that point, and then come back and tell me that they're lying to me. Because you don't know who's lying to you until you go out there and read. Fox News lies just as much as CNN. CNN lies just as much as NBC. Why? Because that's how they make their money.
Off of gullible people. And the thing is, I realized something the other day, is that magicians are only popular in the United States. They're only popular in the United States, and I'm going to tell you why. Because the United States is a country full of gullible people. They'll believe anything. Anything that smoke and mirrors. But hear me out though. Tell me you don't understand this, Odie, real quick. So during Trump's first impeachment, right? What started happening at that time? Jeffrey Epstein, right? Jeffrey Epstein, right?
Yep.
The second impeachment happens. The insurrection happens. And now they're investigating him and Giuliani and everybody that's been around him. And now all of a sudden there's another sex. Now, here's the thing I find funny about this. Matt Gaetz has been investigated for weeks now. Trump still hasn't said one thing about it. He's like, I ain't got nothing to say about that. Liz Cheney says we should stop believing the lie. We should all move forward and forget about this. Trump says she's a horrible human being with no personality. So you don't have anything about this to say about the guy who is involved in human trafficking, sleeping with underage girls, but you have so much to say about the woman who's telling the truth. So basically, what congressmen and senators are saying is, it's okay that Matt Gaetz sleeps with their children. Just don't talk about Donald Trump. Essentially, what they're saying.
We don't even like. You don't even have to do the Liz Cheney one. Just look at how he Jeffrey Epstein's girlfriend. I can't remember her name. Jillian or Julianne. What? Huh?
Ghislaine Maxwell.
That one, Maxwell. When she got arrested, the statement that Trump said, the statement Trump put out was, "She's a good woman. I wish her the best." This is a woman that's being accused of finding sex slaves for Epstein, and he says she's a good woman. I wish her the best. And then we turn around and a football player takes a knee and he calls him an animal and a bastard.
See, these are just two examples of how we can compare and contrast how Trump sees reality. Um, and it's really sad to say, but guys, this is getting worse because they're continuing to look. Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene went on a tour together to, quote, save America. Now, you want to have the fake Johnny Bravo sex addicts or sex trafficker and the Jewish space lasers crazy woman together on a tour. And if you think they have anything prominent to say, I feel bad for you, because neither of them couldn't collectively come up with a single intelligent thought together. And the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene thinks it's comical and thinks it's, you know, cute to continue to, you know, pester with AOC, which I don't see that ending very well for her. And then had the nerve to try to call her childish when you're going to, and bringing Trump supporters to her door. And you want to call her childish because she locked her door, because she's tired of your antics. She has work that she is actually doing. And just because you're kicked off of your committee, you have all the time in the world, doesn't mean that she doesn't have anything to do. All I'm gonna say is this: AOC is a woman that doesn't look like she can be tribal with. She's from New York, and two, she's Latina. That's like not a good combination. That's a terrible combination. So good luck to you on that. We will stay tuned to see how that turns out for you. But I just want to say one last thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene is finding this comical and how this isn't saying this isn't harassment, but when the representative of Guam decided to bring her some cookies with his troops, she felt intimidated, and that wasn't supposed to happen, and it was very unprofessional supposedly. But yet you bring not troops, not people in uniform that are serving this country. You bring the very people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th.
Wait. The very people that attacked the Capitol and were screaming and yelling that they were going to kill this woman amongst other Democrats.
So yeah, I don't understand. Like, we really need to we need to make sure that whenever we get the opportunity to remove these people, we do that, because it's representatives like that. People that you have to understand, they represent us, the American people. These are the people that represent us. I am not very happy with the people that we're choosing to represent us. You have Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about Jewish space lasers and all kinds of other craziness. And why are we not more panicked that these people are writing and writing our laws? Because if she believes something as far-fetched as that, What laws would you think she's going to try to put in place?
48 states now. 48 states now have voter suppression laws that are trying to come in. Those are the types of laws she's going to try to put in place. Um, again, we've said this before, how and it's funny how we brought it up again. How when they do something, it's comical. It's oh, we're just joking around, and we do something, and oh my God, you stepped over the line. Oh my God, I felt threatened. I felt this. Nah, nah. We can't have that. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't. You can't. It's one way or the other, and that's why our voice is so important, guys. You know, this is what me and Mike keep saying. This is what what Mike and myself are trying to instill in everyone else, that when used properly, when used correctly, um, we can affect change. We got to stop thinking about the stupid stuff that doesn't matter, and we got to start thinking about the stuff that will impact all of us.
We gotta understand that there's so much going on in our country. There's still mass shootings. There's still police brutality. There's still homelessness. There's still a pandemic. Like, we have so much to focus on, so much to focus on, that we don't need to be distracted by stupid things like, oh, we need to recount and re-audit the 2020 election 6 months later.
By Dr. Seuss being canceled when there is no Dr. Seuss cancellation.
I just can't anymore. But they're talking about cancel culture, but they literally just canceled Liz Cheney in front of the entire world.
I'm telling you, man, their new slogan should be Republicans, irony made politics.
Pretty much. And it doesn't seem to get any better, man. Every day, every week, it seems that there's something new that these, politicians are trying to come up with. Meanwhile, Matt Gaetz is still being investigated by the feds. Trump still being investigated by the feds. Giuliani being investigated by the feds. And then and every single one of them are trying to, paint over their dealings by saying, oh, well, Joe Biden's laptop, we have this on Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, and oh, Antifa and BLM. What about them? What about them? What about them? When was the last time you heard from them?
It's funny that you mentioned that, because we were talking about the cyber ninjas, and they were saying that, oh, they had gotten some reports that Antifa was gonna go to the stadium where they were counting these ballots and try to cause harm. Guys, come on! Like, honestly, it's funny to me. Uh, I hear it all the time. Oh, Antifa, they're terrorists. Antifa, they're terrorists. Antifa is an idea, not a group. Um, QAnon are terrorists. They're the ones that attempted a coup. I remember when the summer that there was so many riots. Um, there were I kept seeing on Facebook something saying, "Oh, the left is afraid of a letter Q." Nah, we were never, well, the left was never afraid of the letter Q. The left is afraid of the damage that could be caused by those that believed it. because again, Antifa, I mean, honestly, you might want to call them rioters, but they didn't storm the Capitol.
That's what I've always been saying. Like, everyone wants to say, "Oh, Antifa this, Antifa that," but let's talk about the differences here. Antifa or Black Lives Matter never stormed into any government building saying we're going to hang and do harm to elected politicians. They have never halted a democratic process. And from my understanding, I haven't seen any of these groups erect a gallows somewhere and say we're going to hang somebody, namely the vice president of the United States and the Speaker of the House. So you can see here and say, yes, has violence happened at a Black Lives Matter or Antifa event? Yes, it has. I'm not saying that it hasn't. I'm not saying that it's, all sunshine and rainbows, but has it gotten to the point where it got on January 6th? No, never, not once. These are people who are using their voices, and when they don't have their voice, they're gonna get your attention. If we got to do a little damage, that's their slogan. Hey, it is what it is. But they have not caused the damage that the party of Trump and their followers have done to this country and and as far as their protest. That wasn't a protest. I don't care. They really need to stop trying to call these people just regular. They make it seem like these people were just wandering through DC and decided to just go see what was going on in the Capitol. I mean, they make it seem like they were just innocent bystanders that just wanted to talk to Congress. Meanwhile, they are physically harming Capitol police officers and celebrating it. So if you want to make the narrative about Black Lives Matter and Antifa that they're thugs, they're hoodlums, they're deplorables, you should keep that same narrative for these guys who went in with the intent of causing death or serious great bodily harm. We need to stop living that lie. We need to stop living the lie that Trump, the election was stolen from him, and we need to stop living the lie that January 6th wasn't anything other than a coup. We need to look at also that the fact that there's racism in this country that is not going anywhere because people are still ignoring it and sweeping it under the rug. We need to understand that there's policies within the system of this country that keep people of color and minorities from being successful. They keep us from being successful. And until we come to this realization and we come together, it's going to continue to happen.
And this idea that, going back to bringing it full circle, this idea that we can't get a raise or that we shouldn't get a raise because the country will fall apart, or that not enough can go around for all Americans. Guys, if every American was a millionaire, we could afford to have open borders, and we could afford to pay people from Mexico and people from other countries to do the jobs we don't want to do. The reason that our borders have to be closed is because apparently there isn't enough for all Americans to go around. But that's a bunch of bull. If a CEO can get paid 400 times the salary of a normal employee, there's a surplus that can go around. And if every American has something that can go around, then we can afford to open our borders and give something to those around us. I'll end with this. This is the last thing that I'll say. Our responsibility as Americans, we're over here always wanting to police the world, but our responsibility as Americans is to each other. is to make our country great, not again, great. And the only way we can do that is together. We need to succeed together and stop letting the people that are telling us lies that it's not possible steal our success. Instead of letting the children of rich people who are complete idiots go on to be our future politicians, we should be able to give those that really want it, those that really deserve it, and those that have the potential, the keys to our future, regardless of their color, regardless of their ethnicity, regardless of where they were unlucky enough to be born.
Absolutely. And guys, let's always remember that we can continue to make strides towards being one nation. We just have to have the dialogue. And as long as we have the dialogue, as long as we're willing to have the dialogue, we can get a lot of answers. And not just on one side, on all sides. Everybody's got something they need. Everybody's got questions on all sides. So, I mean, instead of dividing us like they want us to be divided, so that they can keep all the power, all the money at the top, I think it's time for us to come together so that way we can get our fair share, get our just due. Because when we come together, we are powerful. We are a nation. We made that notion in November. We showed the world that, hey, if we come together, we can make big noise. Um, let's continue to not get distracted by the smoke and mirrors and all this other stuff, and continue to remember that this man is continuing to try to take our democracy away from us. He's going to continue to try that. And as long as we have politicians that are willing to help him do that, we're not out of the woods yet. We're still in danger, y'all. So, you know, do your best to try to get to the polls and vote. Make sure that we keep those who are really in their seats to represent us in their seats, and remove those who are not looking out for our best interest, but looking out for their best interest by keeping someone, who's not in power in power. We need representation from people who are going to look out for our best interest. Like Odie said, we are the people they need to be looking out for, the constituents. So Lindsey Graham said it best. You got voted in by people who expect you to do a job. And when you don't do your job, you can be voted out. And this is our time. This is our opportunity to do that, y'all. So let's make sure that we do that. Let's make sure we get out to the polls. Let's make sure that we help those who can't get there, help them get there. Any way we can. Let's try to knock this out so that way we can get people to come in and make a change for our country for the better, because we really want to unite the country and not divide it any more than it already is. So Odie, anything else you got before we get out of here?
Just remember, guys, the last thing I'll say is, just remember, what you see on TV, even if it's not no longer there, it still exists, especially with your communities. Show love to our Asian brethren. Show love to each other. Don't allow racism to be in your heart. Don't allow racism to be in your community. Get to know each other, experience other cultures, experience other ethnicities, grow together. Let's be wonderful together.
Yes, and so with that, everybody, remember that we are the real uh, leaders of this country. We may not have titles, we may not have letters and stuff behind our names, but we are the ones that can make the differences in this country. And we do that by using our voices, like Odie said. So make sure that we can do whatever we can to make sure that we to keep our democracy alive. Um, you know, I've learned this week that getting the vaccines is becoming a lot easier. Um, so if you haven't been vaccinated, let's try to do our part and get vaccinated. I am on my way to get vaccination myself. Um, so let's, and like I said, like I always say, we don't want to stand behind you. We don't want to stand in front of you. We want to stand next to you because together we can make change. So until next time, keep understanding each other. Be good. Make good choices. Don't come back with the wrong one.